think light was a visitor, a guest that overstayed. Now I watch it settle into the creases of the day. A slow negotiation with the edges of the room, teaching the shadows how to bloom. I've been that shadow, waiting for the permission to be. But the light doesn't ask, it just arrives quietly. This is the way light learns to stay, not by force, not by holding on, but by showing up day after day until the dark is gone.
I've been chasing brightness like it owed me a debt, torching my own reserves to keep the fire lit. But the fire that burns the fastest leaves the coldest ash. Now I'm learning to sit in the afterglow, let the rush pass. The light that stays is the one that doesn't try to prove anything except the fact that it moves.
Let it move. What if the light was always here, waiting for me to stop searching? This is the way light learns to stay, not by force, not by holding on, but by showing up day after day until the dark is gone.
A pocket full of unanswered weight I thought I'd share, but the questions keep coming, soft as bread, fed to the birds of my attention. They peck and they wait for answers I'm not sure I'm supposed to create.
Maybe the unanswered is where the breathing lies, a space I was never taught to give. A pocket full of unanswered, I'll keep it close.
A seed that doesn't need to
Be a rose,
a question that doesn't need to end.
a place where I can begin again.
I've been taught that closure is a door you lock, but some doors are walls that let the weather talk. The wind, the rain, the slow moss growing, a patience that I'm finally knowing. So let the questions hang, let them swing in the breeze. A pocket full of unanswered,
Setting me at ease.
at ease. What if the answer is not in the salt, but in the way I let the unknown evolve?
A pocket full of unanswered, I'll keep it close.
A seed that doesn't need to
Be a rose,
a question that doesn't need to end.
a place where I can begin again.
I've been tending a vibe that doesn't need to be seen, a warmth that lives beneath the skin, the steady patient green. Not the flame that shouts, not the blaze it claims, just a glow that knows my name. It asks for nothing but the breath I feed. The quietest fire, candle burn, holds the space for me to learn, that I don't need a rage to be alive. The slow burn is how I thrive.
I used to think passion was a wildfire, a thing to control. Now I know it's an ember that outlasts the whole. Performance of heat, the spectacle of show. The quietest fire is the one that lets me grow slow, at my own pace, without the demand to be spectacular, to be grand, to be grand, to be grand.
What if the fire that keeps me warm is the one that doesn't perform? The quietest fire, it doesn't burn, burn. It holds a space for me to learn, that I don't need a rage to be alive. A slow burn is how I thrive. There's a sound that happens when something decides to become. Not a crack, not a shout, just a quiet hum. The folding of the paper, a loosening of the thread, the sound of a thought deciding to be said. I've been listening for it in the spaces I ignore. The sound of unfolding, a door behind a door.
The sound of unfolding, I'm learning to hear. The quietest thing can make itself clear. When I stop rushing, stop the push, a rhythm I can trust.
I've been so loud in my own ears, I missed the shift. The moment when the tight grip became a gift of release, of breath, of letting be. The sound of unfolding, it's the key to a lock I didn't know I had. A quiet permission to be glad.
To be glad.
What if the thing I've been trying to force is already unfolding its own course?
The sound of unfolding, I'm learning to hear. The quietest thing can make itself clear. When I stop rushing, stop the push, a rhythm I can trust. Stars are fading.
Near the places where the ground gives way. A fault line, a softening, a surrender to the clay. But now I walk 'em on purpose, let my feet sink in, learning that the solid was a story thin. The ground that gives is the ground that holds a different kind of brave, a different kind of bold. A place where the ground gives, I let it take me down into the soil that makes me, not the structure, not the stone, just the earth I've always known. Yeah, I've been building on bedrock, or what I thought was rock, but the rock was just a story that the fear would stop. Now I'm letting the marshland teach me how to flow. A place where the ground gives is a different kind of boat. It doesn't promise permanence, it promises to hold me in the shifting, the truth I'm learning to hold. What if the solid was never safe? Just a cage with a different shape. A place where the ground gives, I let it take me down into the soil that makes me, not the structure, not the stone, just the earth I've always known.
They measure things in tons, in force, in mass, but I've been carrying a whisper and it bends, let it grasp. Wherever I walk it trails behind a thread of something I was too afraid to have said. The whisper isn't heavy but it changes the shape of every step I take, every near escape.
Near escape. The weight of a whisper, how do I set it down without letting it drown in the noise I used to cover the sound? A whisper that finally wants to be found.
I've been told to speak up, to be loud and clear, but the whisper is the thing that I've been needing to hear from myself, from the part that doesn't shout, the part that knows what the doubt is trying to protect, the tender, the small, a whisper that could hold it all.
Hold it all. What if the loudest thing I ever do is let the whisper carry through? Oh, oh, oh. How do I set it down without letting it drown noise I used to cover the sound. A whisper that finally wants to be found.
Out of every goodbye, a spiral of regret, yeah, that reached the sky. I thought if I made it grand enough, it would mean that the loss was something I could keep clean. But the architecture of letting go is not a monument. It's a door that opens when the heart is bent. Is bent. The architecture of letting go is not a structure you can show. It's the space between the beams where the light redeems. I've been a collector of things I should release, a museum of moments I wanted to see. But the museum grew wings and I was the cage. Now I'm learning to turn the page. Not by destroying, but by leaving the door wide enough for the wind to restore. What if the letting go is not but a room I can finally cross? The architecture of letting go is not a structure you can show. It's the space between the beams where the light redeems. Before the words, there was a sound I knew, a hum my mother made when the world was too new. It wasn't a language, it was a permission to be, a frequency that let me be me.
I've been searching for it in every conversation, a language before words, a different kind of station.
A language before
words, I'm learning to speak with the silence, with the weed that passes without a name, without a claim, a language that doesn't need to explain.
I've been so busy with the meanings, the definitions I made, forgetting that the first sound was a hum. For goodness sake,
a breath, a touch, a look that stayed.
A language that was never afraid to be unclear, to be soft, to be slow. A language I'm trying to let myself know.
What if the words are just the surface, and the real lives in the purpose?
A language before words, I'm learning to speak with the silence, with the week that passes without a name, without a claim. A language that doesn't need to explain.
To be fixed, a collector of cracks, a mixer of bricks. I thought if I could mend the world, I'd finally be whole. But the world doesn't need my patch, just my role. As witness, as someone who sees the art of not fixing is setting me free. The art of not fixing, I let it be. The crack, the break, the mistake. Not everything needs to be whole. Some things are beautiful in the unspoken role. I've been trying to glue the shattered vase of my own past, but the pieces told me they were fine at last. Separate shards of scattered light, a mosaic that didn't need to be tight. So now I let them lie where they fell. The art of not fixing, I'm learning to dwell. If the broken is not a flaw, just a different kind of law. I let it be. The crack, the break, the mystery. Not everything needs to be whole. Some things are beautiful in the unspoken, in raw. They sell this time as a commodity, a thing to spend. But the space between the clock ticks is the space that never ends. A pause that holds the whole of what we are before we turn it into a bar. On a graph, a line, a metric to meet. The space between the clock ticks I'm learning to keep.
The space between the clock ticks, I let it stretch. A breath I didn't know I could fetch. From the rush, the race, the endless spin. A place where I can begin again.
I've been measuring my life by the minutes I fill. A ledger of doing, a record of will. But the doing is nothing without the gap, the rest between the claps, the silence that lets the music be heard. The space between the clock ticks, a different kind of word.
What if the time I've been trying to save is the time I already gave? Ooh, the space between the clock ticks, I let it stretch. A breath I didn't know I could fetch. From the rush, the race, the endless spin. A place where I can begin again.
I've been followed by a flock of almost birds that never land. They circle overhead, a soft and patient band. The almost I've collected, the nearlies I've stored. A flight that never reaches the shore. I used to try to catch them, pin them down. Now I let them fly, a different kind of crown, the flock on the crown, and let them soar. They don't need the land to be adored. Into the space for what could be, a flock of almost carrying me. I've been mourning the things that never came to be. A litany of loss, a history. But the almost are not failures, they're just a different route. A path I took to figure out what I need, what I want, what I am. A flock of almost, a quiet jam.
Quiet as the host is not a lack, just a different kind of track.
The flock of almost, I let them soar. They don't need the land to be adored. Into the space of what could be, a flock of almost carry me. on a bed of borrowed time, a mattress of loan, the hours I didn't earn, the days I've outgrown. But the sheets are warm, the pillow holds a dream that never scolds me for taking more than I deserve. For better borrowed time, a different kind of nerve, kind of nerve. The bed of borrowed time, I lie here still, let the guilt be still, for needing rest, for needing pause. A bed of borrowed time, a softer cause.
I've been counting the minutes like they're a debt I owe. Every second a payment a row I must hold. But the better borrowed time is a gift, not a theft. A space where the pressure can't finally be left. At the door, at the edge, in the dark, a borrowed bed, a different kind of spark.
What if the time I think I owe is the time that lets me grow? A bed of borrowed time, I lie here still, let the guilt be still, for needing rest, for needing pause. A bed of borrowed time, a softer cause. Like I'm
They tell you doors are for opening, for walking through. But I've learned the tenderness of a closed door too. A hand that stays on the knob, a breath that waits, a boundary that doesn't hesitate to say not now, not yet, not here. A closed door, a different kind of clear. Quiet, solid hand that holds the space for me to be. A door that sets me free. I've been taught that open is the only way to be. A welcome mat for every possibility. But the open became a flood, a wash of need, a door that never let the sea take root in its own soil, its own time. The tenderness of a closed door, a different kind of rhyme. What if the door that stays closed is the one that protects what grows? The tenderness of a closed door, let it stand. A quiet, solid hand that holds the space for me to be. A door that sets me free. a matter of miles, a line from here to there, a series of trials. But now I know it's a shape I can't quite draw, a circle that holds without a law. The geometry of nearness is a curve that bends around the heart, the space where a friendship extends.
The geometry of nearness I'm learning to trace, a pattern that doesn't need a place. On a map, on a grid, on a line, a nearness that is always mine.
I've been measuring closeness by the time we spend, a ledger of hours, a document. Oh, but the nearness lives in the gap between the calls and the silence that knows and never appalls. The geometry of the unspoken, the unseen, a nearness that has always been.
Always been. What if the nearest thing to me is the one I let be free? The geometry of nearness I'm learning to trace, a pattern that doesn't need a place. On a map, on a grid, on a line, a nearness that is always mine. Oh, yeah. The geometry in this I'm in a trace, a pattern that doesn't need a place. On a map, on a grid, on a line, a nearness that is always mine. Oh, hey.
I've been humming a song that doesn't know its name, a melody that comes when I stop playing the game of naming everything, of labeling the sound, a tune that knows where I am found. It doesn't need a chorus, a verse, a refrain, a song that doesn't know its name again, a song that doesn't know its name. I let it be the same as the breath, as the breeze, as the quiet inside, a song that doesn't need to hide. Whoa, whoa. I've been writing lyrics for everything I feel, a constant translation, a need to make it real, but the real was there before the words arrived, a song that simply thrives without my help, without my claim, a song that doesn't know its name? What if the best song I'll ever sing is the one that doesn't mean a thing? Oh, a song that doesn't know its name. Oh, I let it be the same as the breath, as the breeze, as the quiet inside. A song that doesn't need to hide. Oh, oh. There's a thread that was never cut. No matter how far I went, I lie back to a place I never meant to leave, but I did, and the thread stayed.
Constant, quiet aid. I thought I severed it with every goodbye.
But the thread was stronger than my goodbye.
Goodbye, goodbye. The thread that was never cut, I let it hold. The story that was always told in the weave of who I am. A thread that doesn't need a plan. Oh, a thread that doesn't need a plan.
I've been trying to be self-made, a thing apart, but the thread is the truth of the heart that connects to the hands that held me first, to the voices that quench my thirst for belonging, for knowing, for a place to stand. A thread that was never cut, a quiet hand.
Quiet hand. What if the thread I tried to bite, goodbye, is the thread that I can't portray? The thread that was never cut, I let it hold. A story that was always told in the weave of who I am. A thread that doesn't need a plan. Oh, a thread that doesn't need a plan. A thread that doesn't need a plan.
I've been trying to name the color of exhale. Is it the blue of relief? The gray of a veil? Yeah. Lifting the white of a cloud that stays. The color of exhale. A different kind of praise for the letting go, the release, the slack. A color I can't bring back. The color of exhale. Let it wash up over me. A quiet splash of not needing to hold, to grip, to clench. A color that doesn't pinch.
I've been holding my breath for years, it feels like a muscle that forgot how to lie. The release, the fall, the letting be. The color of exhale is the thing that sets me free from the performance of strain. The air, the grit, the color that lets me slip. But if the color I've been chasing is the breath I've been erasing, the color of exhale, I let it wash over me. The quiet splash of not needing to hold, to grip, to clench. A color that doesn't pinch.
A museum of small defeats, a hall of quiet losses. The things I didn't say, the lines I didn't cross. I used to visit with a heavy heart, a tally of shame. Now I walk the halls and whisper their names, with gratitude, with grace, with a kind of ease. A museum of small defeats, I plead, please.
The museum of small defeats, I keep it clean. A record of what I've been. Not a prison, not a shrine. Just a place where the real aligns.
I've been told to forget, to move on, to let go. But the defeats are the soil where the flowers grow. A missed call, a step back, a pause I took, a lesson I wrote in a different book. So I'll keep the museum, I'll dust the shelves. A museum of small defeats, so well. What if the small defeats are not a scar, just a map of who we are?
The museum of small defeats, I keep it clean. A record of what I've been. Not a prison, not a shrine. Just a place where the real aligns. The museum of small defeats, I keep it clean. A record of what I've been. Not a prison, not a shrine. Just a place where the real aligns.
I built a window that doesn't look out, it looks in. A frame on the wall where the inside begins. No landscape, no sky, no passing car, just the space where I am as I are. I used to think a window was for seeing beyond. Now I know it's for seeing what I'm from. A window that doesn't look out, I let it be a way to see. The thing I was trying to escape was the thing I needed to shake. I've been so busy looking for the view, I missed the room I was in. The quiet hue of the walls, the floor, the light that stays. A window that doesn't look out, a different kind of gaze. Not escape, but presence, not far but near. A window that doesn't look out, I'm finally here. I'm finally here. What if the view I've been searching for is the one that doesn't need a door? What if the view I've been searching for is the one that doesn't need a door? Doesn't look out, I let it be a way to see. The thing I was trying to escape was the thing I needed to shape it.
I've been studying the hand that lets go, the tendons, the grace, the moment when the grip becomes a space. For something new to land, for air to feel, a hand that lets go, a different kind of will. Not weakness, not failure, not giving up. A hand that lets go, a different kind of cup.
The hand that lets go, I'm learning to be open, empty, free. Not holding, not clenching, just here. A hand that lets go, a different kind of clear.
I've been holding on to things that wanted to fly. A bird in my palm, a tear in my eye. I thought keeping was loving, but the love was in the release. A hand that lets go, a kind of peace that I didn't know I could give to myself. A hand that lets go, a different kind of wealth.
But the thing I've been trying to keep is the thing that teaches me to sleep. The hand that lets go, I'm learning to be open, empty, free. Not holding, not clenching, just here. A hand that lets go, a different kind of clear. What if the thing I've been trying to keep is the thing that teaches me